Tomorrow, in all of Christendom, the Sunday before what they celebrate as the pagan festival called Easter, which has absolutely no bearing of Scripture at all. Tomorrow, the Christian world will be celebrating Palm Sunday. Okay. Now, here's a question I want to ask for those of you scholars, Christian scholars, doctors of divinity, elders, bishops, evangelists, prophets, prophetess, whatever title you choose, whatever title you have. I challenge you to prove to me from the Scripture Palm Sunday. Now, Palm Sunday is not a biblical or a scriptural, if you will, holiday. Now, the world has gotten things so twisted, right? The world believes that the new year began in January, and so they had what they call first fruits, where they brought all of their money to church for the season that they call the first fruits of the new year. Okay. Then, to top it off, they began their new year with a celebration called Denial, where religiously every year the bishop, pastor, whoever gets up in front of the congregation and says to the members, "We're going to have a denial. I want you to deny yourself from fried foods, sugar, meat, or whatever, okay? But we're going to start this denial off on a Tuesday, right? And with this denial, we're going to pig out, right? We're going to eat is what they call Fat Tuesday, right? We're going to eat all of the pancakes and all of the fattened foods, and then from that point forward, we're going to start what we call denial for 40 days. Okay? The denial is supposed to end during the pagan festival called Easter, which is a Greek substitution of the Hebrew word Pesach or Passover, right? That's what the world has given us, the big lies and the big deception that Christianity has imposed on us, and we, without hesitation, participate in the fables called Aesop's fables of deception, right? Now, when it comes to the Feast of the Most High, we have a major issue because we don't want to participate in God's feast. You know, we can't deny ourselves from eating bread for 1 week of Passover. We might die. Right? But when we in the church, we can deny ourselves from eating ice cream for 40 days, or sugar, or whatever it is that you were told to deny. And they even go through phases don't they go through phases in that, in the denial? Like 1 week you might deny yourself from eating meat. The Then another week you might deny yourself from eating sugar. Don't they have like different phases? It's not like the same thing, right? Usually.
Some people, it's the same thing.
That's the way we did it in Church of God in Christ. You had different phases of what they call the denial, because everybody couldn't deny themselves from the same thing. You had people that may have been taking medication, so to that person, a denial just meant missing one meal a day. Whereas to another person who doesn't take medication, a denial to them may have been no fried foods on Fridays. But we can dedicate ourselves to the Christian church, but we can't dedicate ourselves to the Most High. And then we wonder why we are in this captivity, right? Making the lowest pay, right? Living in unfair houses, right? Living in a poverty status, right? Sometimes we are in a status of poverty by choice. But we make those sacrifices for ourselves and for the church, but we can't make a sacrifice for the Most High. It's just pitiful and it's just sad that He is the one that suffers the loss. Everybody else can get the benefits. Right? So there's coming a day of rewards. There's coming a day where the Most High is going to pay us back for the works that we've done. Every man is going to be paid. Even Shaul tells you that every man's work is going to be tried as by fire. To see of what sort it is. Wood, hay, stubble, stones, precious stones, what have you. So when the day of judgment comes, we're looking for the Most High's blessing and rewards, but we don't want to do what it takes to obtain the reward. Okay? I had a epistle of Shaul that came to my mind with regards to the rewards, and we have to ask ourselves a simple question. Right? How important is this walk to us? How important is eternal life to us? Right? Are we willing to allow a job? Are we willing to allow a career, our own emotional desires and passions to prevent us from our eternal rewards? How important is that to us? You know, oh, I don't want to upset my mother, or I don't want to upset my father, my brothers, my sisters. I want them to love me. But yet, so we pacify our loved ones, husbands and wives, right? Children, right? Friends, at the expense of the Most High. Disobedience, the Most High said to the prophet, to King Shaul, disobedience is as a sin of witchcraft. We want to talk about witchcraft, and a lot of times, we, especially those Israelites, we quick to attack the Christian church about witchcraft when the real witchcraft is disobeying the Most High. When the Most High says for us to do something, and we got all kinds of 50, 1100 excuses to not do it, we're operating in witchcraft. The disobedience is as the sin of witchcraft. That's what the book says. Disobedience is as the sin of witchcraft. So we got to make a decision to choose. Are we going to learn the ways of the heathens and participate in the practices, the falsehood, the lies, the deception, the traditions of men? Or are we going to obey the Most High? Now, like my cousin says, I said all that to say this. Who and what is worthy of your soul? Who's worthy and what is worthy of your soul? Eternity is a long time to be in the judgment of the Most High because of a loved one, a friend, whoever, a spouse, a dog, a pet, or even your car, your favorite sports team, right? Many times we fall into transgression because of the things that we love. And we disobey the Most High, and we have judgment sitting and waiting on our head because we won't listen and obey the Most High. Right? Now, I'm going to read something, and then this is going to be a short video. I'm going to close out. And the season that we're in is the season called Pesach, which is the ancient Hebrew way of saying it. The modern expression is Passover, right? So what does the Passover signify? Where did it have its origin? What does it mean? What did it mean? And is there going to be a perpetual meaning of Passover? Okay? Right? Okay? Now, let's go to Exodus and prayerfully you're getting the meat out of what I'm sharing. Exodus 12 says, and Yah spoke to Moshe and to Aharon in the land of Egypt. Now, stop for a second. We know for a fact that Egypt that he's talking about is a literal place. Literally the land of Mizraim, which was a descendant of Ham. Right? So we know for a fact that that's what he's talking about. But on the other end of the spectrum, Egypt also is a place of bondage. Right? You Negroes, African Americans, blacks, Haitians, Cubans, Jamaicans, etc. You are the biblical Israelites, and you are in the land of bondage. You don't believe me? Turn on the TV and see how you're treated and talked about in your absence. Okay? So he said, speak to Aharon in the land of Egypt, saying, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months. Okay? This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. Now, this month we're going to explain, we're going to read it, and it's going to give a self-explanation of what the month is, right? It says, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months. Okay? So when we say the beginning of months, we're talking about when our months begin. Okay? The months are numbered 1 through 12, which is a replica, or it is symbolic of what? The 12 tribes of Israel. Okay? This month shall be the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. So, contrary to what you've been taught about January 1st being a new year, according to Yah's law, the first month is the month of the season that we're in. Okay? This shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, in the 10th day of this month, they shall take of them every man a lamb according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for a house. So now today, if you are a person that looks at your monthly calendar, you can look on your monthly calendar. If you don't know the first thing about looking or observing a new moon, they did it for you, put it right in the calendar. So when you see that new moon on your monthly calendar, that you write all your bills that when they're due, right? You write all your appointments, your doctor's appointments, right? Children's birthday, whatever. Okay? On that same calendar, you will see a new moon, which is the new month. Contrary to what you see in a 12-month calendar that has the month starting with day 1 at the top of every month. That calendar does not regulate the beginning of the month. The beginning of the month is regulated by the new moon. The beginning of the year is regulated by the month. We're going to read this in a minute. That is in conjunction with the season of spring. Okay? So he says, speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, in the 10th day of this month which is the first month, right? They shall take to them every man a lamb according to the house of the fathers, a lamb for a house. Now, there's protocols for the lambs and where the lambs were to be offered. So, outside of Jerusalem, there is no, it's actually in violation to sacrifice a lamb outside of Jerusalem. So, we know what the lamb is significant of. It's a shadow. So the lamb has already been slain before the foundation of the world. That's another lesson, okay? So therefore, we look to the true and not the shadow, because the shadow will in a latter time, in later days, is what I was trying to say. The sacrifices will be reinstituted. Right? So he said, and if the household be, let me go back. Verse 3, second half, it says, they shall take to them every man a lamb according to the house of their fathers a lamb for a house. And if the household be too little for a lamb, in other words, you got a lot of people living in that house, right? What they call communal living. Okay. He says, if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of souls. So let him and his neighbor, right, next unto his house take it according to the number of souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb. So the lamb was being sacrificed for food. Now, I'm not going to go to my next door neighbor here because they straight up Christians. But they are not practicing Christians. The majority of Christians, them are not practicing Christians. They are Christians by label. They're Christians by confession, but not by profession. How about that? Most people, the majority of Christendom, don't even know the Bible. They just repetitively repeat what they heard somebody else say. Amen, amen. Which is pure, utter madness and foolishness. That you would just repeat what somebody else said without reading and knowing what it says for yourself. It's kind of like going to a doctor and he gives somebody else a prescription for something and you grab that prescription and you start taking it for you and not knowing what's in it or knowing what it is designed to do, but you just take the prescription. Okay? So no, I can't go to my neighbors. All around my neighbors, I live around pagans. There's not an Israelite within the radius of where I live, other than my own household. Okay. So I'm not going to go to my neighbor and ask them to do anything as pertaining to this because they're not in. They're looking at me like I done lost my mind. But yet they got people dying and going to heaven. Anyway, let's continue. So he says, 5, your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. You shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats. So what did Yahshua do? Yahshua, who is the true image, was without blemish. He obeyed the Most High in every part. Okay? Without blemish. And Yahshua was and is to this day a male. Right? Okay? Of the first year, which is another symbol of purity. Right? You shall take it out from the sheep. So Yahshua came into the world and came amongst his own as a sheep, right? In the midst of the flock. Okay? So this is a shadow of Yahshua. Now watch this now. And you shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month. So now we go from the 10th day, which is the preparation, and into the 14th day. So 4 days from now, we are on the Shabbat. So first day, second day, third day, fourth day. Okay, so we're not quite in the 10th day of the month yet. Okay, if we back up, we'll see. The Shabbat, which would be 7, which is 1. First day 2. The second day 3. The third day 4. Right. So we can do it this way. Okay, let's look at it this way. All right. 7 days from now, 4 days, I'm sorry, 4 days. 4 days from now, 4 days from, let me back this up, say this again. 4 days from the 7th day, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, which is the 3rd day, okay, which will be what? What the world calls Tuesday. So yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, no, I'm sorry, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 4 days. So 4 days, the day start at sundown. So we say Tuesday, we're talking about at sundown, okay? So 4 days from now will be the 10th day, which will be what the world calls Tuesday, okay? All right, now, you count that, the 14th day will be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I'm sorry, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, which starts at sundown, which will be sundown Thursday. On the 14th day, so the 14th day will be next. This will begin. 14th day will begin next Friday, which starts at Thursday at sundown. Right? Does that make sense? So you go from the 14th day. Now it says here, bring it on the 14th day of the month, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. So as we're in the 14th day, which is Thursday, going all the way to the Shabbat, when the sun goes down on Friday, which starts at Shabbat, he says kill it in the evening. And that's when the first day of unleavened bread begins. Okay, we can continue to read. All right. So he says, verse 6 again, second half. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. Right? So what happened? When Yahshua died, the year that he was sacrificed or slain or hung up for our hang-ups, it was in the middle of the week. He was offered the exact time during the same time of the year of the Passover, at the self-same time and hour of the day and day of the week that the Passover lamb was supposed to have been slain. That's when Yahshua died. Okay? So here it says, and they shall take of the blood, right, and strike it on the 2 side posts and on the upper doorposts of the house, wherein they shall eat it. See that? So now, going forward, when Yahshua went to be offered as the sacrifice, what did Yahshua do? Right? His blood, he offered unto the disciples the blood of the covenant. Okay? He sat with them and he took wine and gave it to them and said, this is my blood, right? And then when he took the bread and he broke the bread and said, this is my body, which was broken for you, right? So Yahshua did the exact thing that we were supposed to do on the Passover, which is take the wine and take the bread, the blood, and sprinkle the blood on the doorposts. The doorpost that we had today is our heart or our mind, which is our heart, right? So he said, 7, and they shall take of the blood and strike it on the 2 sides. Okay, go to verse 8. And they shall eat the flesh in that night. That night. So on the 14th, as we're going into the 15th day, as the sun goes down, we are eating that meal that night. That's what it says here. And roast with fire and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs shall they eat it. So he commanded Israel to do this before Israel even did it. He said to eat it with unleavened bread and with bitter herbs. Okay? Bitter herbs. As bitter as you can get it. All right. Yeah. He says, eat not it raw, nor sodden at all with water, but roast it, roast it with fire, his head, with his legs, and with his putenance thereof, and you shall let nothing of it remain until the morning, and that which remain of it until the morning you shall burn with fire. And thus shall you eat it with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it in haste. It is Yah's Passover. See that? 12 says, for I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, for both man and beast, against all the deities of Egypt, or all the lands of captivity where we are, right? I will execute judgment, for I am Yah. So this is a shadow of us being taken out of these captive lands. So if you don't want to participate with this, then you shouldn't even look forward to being taken back to Israel. Because this is just a reminder, or a participation, an enactment of us being taken from our captive lands back to our land of nativity, where we will be established as a kingdom of priests, right? Or priestesses, or queendom or kingdom of priests and priestesses. Okay? So the Most High, verse 12 says, he says, I will execute judgment, for I am Yah. So we are keeping this feast to remind the Most High that you promised that you were going to execute judgment upon the nations that have done what? Have violated us, have oppressed us, have browbeated us, right? Have robbed and spoiled us. You said you was going to judge these heathen nations. So we participate with these feast days with an expectancy of us being taken from our enemies' lands. So if you don't want to leave your enemies' lands, then don't participate. Stay behind in captivity. But if you want to be out of this captivity, if you're tired of being fatherless, you're tired of being husbandless, wifeless, etc., jobless, poor, living on welfare, food stamps, the whole 9 yards, participate. If you're happy living like you are, then don't participate. Okay? Now, 13. He says, and the blood shall be to you for a token upon the house where you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you, when I smite the land of Egypt. See that? So, once again, all of that, the instructions is for protection. You may say, oh, it's not significant. That's a ritual. That's religion. Everything that the Most High instructed us to do, brothers and sisters, has a reason, right? If you are so addicted to the flesh that you won't obey the Most High, then just be happy Don't worry. Just be happy where you are, because that's where you're going to stay. Okay? Remember Harriet Tubman story, how she was determined to free her people. And you had some people kicking and screaming. They knew they needed to be free, but yet they wasn't willing to do what they needed to do. They were operating in fear, operating in tradition, operating, oh, the master's going to catch us, we're going to die. Right? But I'm a spiritual Moses, modern Moses, as many others are. I'm not the only one. I'm not saying that I'm the only one. If you think I'm saying that, then you're just showing your own stupidity. What I'm saying is that the Most High is using people like me and others, right, to wake you up, to help you to see that don't get caught up in why do we need to do that? The instructions that the Most High gave to us is He is looking for a people who's willing to be different and willing to be obedient and willing to have the whole family. If your family gets upset with you because you want to obey the Most High and they want to stay in captivity, are you going to let them keep you in captivity? Or are you going to do it thus save Yah? They'll love you in the long run. I remember when I was a kid coming up, man, my mother and father will whoop you in a minute for doing stuff that was wrong. Right? Now I look back, I hated them when they did it, but now I look back and say, you know what? If they hadn't whooped my behind, I would be strung out on drugs, in prison, right? An unfit husband, an unfit father. I would have had all kinds of children every which way, right? I might have been gay. I might have been a whole lot of things. But I can respect and look back and respect the discipline that my father and my mother both together gave me. They're going to be all right. Let them cry. Let them scream and holler. Right? You have to rule your house. The Most High said if a man can't rule his own household, how can he or she rule the house of Yah? Nobody gonna listen to you spiritually. Your own physical flesh won't listen to you. Why would somebody spiritually want to listen to you? You have no control. People just walk over top of you. That's why I drive a school bus. I go off on my kids on the bus. Let them know I don't play with you. I'm not your father. I'm not gonna whoop you because I can't. But I'm gonna whoop you in another way. How about that? You gotta put your foot down. All right. So he says, the Most High said, verse 14, and this day shall be unto you for a memorial. This day, not Easter, right? Not April Fool's Day and all other nonsense that we have fallen for the Mickey, fallen prey to. But he says, this day shall be a memorial, right? What's a memorial? Well, they have a day called Memorial Day coming up. They memorialize, they remember this day. Remember those who gave their lives in the military and etc. Right? So, a memorial means this is the day that we remember when the Most High took us out of Egyptian 400 years of captivity. See, I can't get these Hebrew Christians is think that they're going to just come out of captivity and not do nothing. We're under the new covenant. That's an old covenant. You ain't coming out of captivity. 400 years, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to prophesy to you. I'm a prophet. Okay? 400 years going to come and go, and your behind will still be in captivity if you don't obey the Most High. Knowing you, Israel, ain't going to do nothing for you if you still in disobedience. You're going to stay right in the captivity. Most High not going to gather nobody that's disobedient. Okay? And if you don't like it, maybe this is not the channel for you. But the Most High is not going to gather nobody that's disobedient. Disobedient is as a sin of witchcraft. I already told you that already. All right? So he says what? This shall be a memorial, and you shall keep it a feast. Right? Now, what is a feast? A feast is something that is celebrated. The word in Hebrew is chag, which means a celebration, an enactment, a looking forward to, right? So we celebrate this feast of Pesach, of Passover, with an anticipation that this is the year that we coming up out of this captivity. That's why we celebrate it. We don't celebrate because it's religion. Oh, this is Passover time again. We looking forward to being taken out of captivity. Okay? I know people going to comment on the video, but if you want to make dumb, stupid comments, that's up to you. But guess what? You ain't going to change me. And I'm to the point now where I see stupid comments, I don't even respond to stupidity anymore. If it's a sincere comment, then I'll reply. I might check a like, or I might send you a note and say, send me an email. But people that's being stupid, that don't want to adhere to Yah's truth, I had no time for that. Trust me, I don't have time for that. Okay? Time is too far spent. You want to stay in your religion and support your pastor, then you do that. Go to another channel. But if as for me and my house, we're going to serve Yah. All right? So if you want to serve Yah, you got the right channel. How about that? All right, so he says, you shall keep it as a feast to Yah. This is not about us. This is to Yah. The feast we're keeping to Yah is that's why it's called a memorial, because we are reminding the Most High that you said that you were going to gather us from these lands of captivity. So when he see us obey him, we're just simply waving our hands and say, hey, Yah, Abba Yah, look at us. We returning to the covenant. As stupid as we may look, as much of an outsider as we may be, hey, Yah, here we go, over here in the lands of captivity. We returning to the covenant. You promised us that you're going to gather us from these lands of captivity. Right? All right, so he says, this day shall be unto you a memorial, and you shall keep it a feast unto Yah throughout your generations. Right? Didn't say you're going to stop keeping these feasts when the Messiah dies. Didn't say that. He said, you shall keep it as a feast, right? By an ordinance. What is an ordinance? An order. You don't have an option. You're ordered to keep this feast as a feast. Yeah, the heathen got you working. Maybe you can't get off on your job, but guess what? You can remember those days. And you can do what you can do. Right? I remember when I was driving a truck. Man, feast day came around, my truck sat. I honored the Most High's day. I took a pay cut by not driving a load that would have me driving on the Shabbat, on the feast day. Why? Not because I'm so great and so wonderful, and I dot every I and cross every T, but because I'm trying to get my Most High's attention, that I'm trying to do what you said for us to do. I'm not making any excuses to not obey, right? We got to get out of the time of excuse. We got too many excuses, right? So he says, you shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever. Right? A perpetual order. So, even so much so that when the Messiah gathers us from the four corners, we're going to keep the Feast of Tabernacles, right? The new moons, etc. Because this is a forever, brothers and sisters. This is not an option. You don't have a choice whether you want to do it or not. This is an order. Okay? 15, he says, 7 days shall you eat unleavened bread. It's not an option. He said, you shall eat unleavened bread 7 days. Not you should eat, or if it fits in your schedule, or if it's convenient, right? He says, you shall eat unleavened bread. Even the first day you shall put, watch what he says here. This is a eternal judgment thing, brothers and sisters. He says, you shall, on the first day, you shall put away leaven out of your houses. It's not an option. You shall put away leaven out of your houses for 7 days. And watch what he says. For those that say, well, you know what? The Most High ain't that mean. He understands. You know, after all, the Lord understands, you know. Watch what he says about that. He says, you shall put away leaven out of your houses. For whosoever eateth leavened bread from this day until the 7th day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. And it cut off from Israel is twofold. And I know this as a fact. You can be cut off in death, or you can be cut off in fellowship. And I don't want there to be any confusion as to whether or not I'm going to be cut off in death or fellowship. Which is worse. Okay? While all the Israelites across the globe are memorializing this Passover, what does it mean to be cut off? You're out of fellowship. You're out of season. You don't know it's the new year. You don't feel the connection with the body of Israel and Yahshua. You feel no connect. You feel disconnected. You might get tempted to go back to the church. Or you find out that they're giving you junk food. But seriously, that happened to me some years ago when I did not participate because I reasoned, oh, well, you know, the Most High understands. And I was cut off. I mean, it took me probably 2 years to get back into fellowship with Israel because that cut me off. I was out of connection. I had no excitement, no joy, my spirit was damaged. I was angry, bitter, the whole 9 yards. I had no fellowship, and I was out of connection with Israel and with the body. And that's a terrible feeling to be out of fellowship. Even though you're not around the people, when the season comes, you can feel the connection. Right? There was a time on Facebook, I would say, you could see even people posting on Facebook. It was such a connection during the feast days. Everybody posting up. Cox and Mayock. Now, you go on Facebook, man, you don't see a lot of people. You see a lot of Israelites missing and hitting. You don't see a lot of people posting up, you know, Cox and Mayock. happy Passover, whatever. You don't see a lot of that. A lot of people have been cut off from Israel. And when you cut off spiritually, you die physically. And you find yourself open to all kinds of things, wondering and wishing and saying, should I return back to the church? Should I go back to Islam? Well, maybe I'm being too hard on my family. Maybe I should have a little more patience. So you allowing your family to have you cut off from Israel? To cut off from spiritually? To ultimately, to eventually be cut off in death? So that's what he said. That's what he means when he says that. He said, and that's so that eat unleavened bread shall be cut off from Israel. Either way, you cut off. That's a terrible feeling when you cut off. Talk about not having fellowship, being out of fellowship. That's what being out of fellowship means, being out of fellowship. 16, and in the first day there shall be a holy convocation, right? And in the seventh day there shall be a holy convocation to you. No manner of work shall be done in them, save that which every man must eat, that only may be done of you. See that? So you're making that preparation for the first day of unleavened bread and for the seventh day, right? To keep those days. And that's what the Passover is significant of. So when you have that clarity that we are obeying the Most High with an anticipation, right? Getting his attention. While he's up in heaven looking down, he's the only one that's up in heaven looking down. Ain't nobody else up there up in heaven looking down. No lover that died on this earth is not up in heaven looking down. There's nowhere in the book where anybody's up in heaven looking down. But the Most High, when he sees us, right, and we are obeying him, he's looking for an obedient people that's doing all that they can do to observe, to do all that's written in the book of the law, and not making excuses and say, oh, the law was nailed to the tree. We're under a new covenant now. That is not going to get you out of captivity. It's going to keep you. It's going to perpetuate your stay. It might be another 400 years. Remember, Israel was in the wilderness, which was a 40-day journey, if that. But they were in the wilderness for how many years? 40 years. Why? Because of disobedience. So you will make you think that the Most High going to let you be in captive lands and disobey him and get taken out. It ain't happening. It's not happening, right? All right, now let's continue. You shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for in the self same day have I brought your armies, right, out of the land of Egypt. Now, stop for a second. Israel was in Egypt, didn't have an army, right? But the text says, for in the self same day have I brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. The Most High brought our armies out of Egypt. We can go into the Hebrew and look that word up, but I'm not going to do that. I want to just deal with the English word, armies. Okay, and I'm pretty sure in the Hebrew it's talking about the forces. But what forces is it that allowed us to be brought out of Egypt, the first Egypt, and what forces is it going to allow us to be brought out of the second Egypt? You have any clue of what that force is? I'll give you a hint. Obedience. Obedience. That's the force. That's the army. He says he shall bring you out. I brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. Now the Most High said this before Israel even went out of Egypt. He's giving them a shadow that I brought your forces out of Egypt. Your armies. Israel's still in Egypt. They had left. But the Most High said, I brought your armies out of Egypt. So he's dealing in the present tense. He's not dealing in the past future. He's dealing in the present tense. I brought you out. Right? All right. Therefore shall you observe this day in your generations by an ordinance, right? Forever. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at even, you shall eat unleavened bread. He says it again, until the 21st day of the month at even. 7 days, he says. So just in case you got it twisted, he says 7 days shall there be no leaven found in your house. Well, brother, the moray ain't gonna come in my house, so he won't know if I didn't get it out. It ain't about the moray. It's about Yah. Yah knows it's in there. And you be disobedient and you don't get it out. That's between you and Yah. I know as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to get it out. Right? And before I get it out, I'm going to warn, Passover coming, March the 30th. All the bread's got to be out for 7 days. If it ain't out, it's going in the trash can. Going in the trash can. I got to be the savior of my household. Right? Can I get a witness? All right, now. He says, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at even. 7 days shall there be no leaven found in your houses. For whosoever eat that which is leavened, even that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel. It says it again, whether he be a stranger or born in the land. So, by our disobedience, even those that are still strangers that are not a part of the covenant is still going to be cut off because of our disobedience. Huh? Our children will be cut off because of our disobedience. That's what he's saying. He said the stranger, read again. He says, that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether it be a stranger, a foreigner, somebody who is outside of the covenant, or one who was born in the land, or one who has been born again of the covenant, or born in the land, literally and spiritually, born spiritually, or stranger spiritually, or stranger naturally, right? They're being held accountable for our obedience or our disobedience, right? 20 says, you shall eat nothing leavened in all your habitations. Shall you eat unleavened bread. So don't eat it. I've been practicing this for years, right? It's not hard. 7 days, It's not hard to go without bread, leavened bread. It's not hard. It's not hard as you make it. And don't you let the government tell you, you need to give your kids some bread. Tell the government to go to hell. All right, now, tell you raise your household when I raise mine, right? All right, now, let me see. So he says, 21. Then Moshe called for all the elders of Israel and said unto them, draw out and take you a lamb according to your families and kill the Passover. And you shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and strike the lintel and 2 side posts with the blood that is in the basin, and none of you shall go out at the door of this house until the morning. Okay? Okay? So, the spiritual significance of that is, yes, we are applying the blood to our life. What blood? How are we applying the blood? Through obedience. When I see the blood is significant of obeying the Most High and doing what He said to do. He said, put blood on the door. Get the leaven out. Okay? What blood are we applying? Okay? The blood of obedience. Okay? Literal blood of the animal, which is a shadow of the true blood of the Mashiach. Okay? (23) For Yah will pass through to smite the Egyptians. And when you see the blood, or when he sees the blood rather, upon the lintel and on the 2 side posts, Yah will pass over the door and will not suffer the destroyer to come in unto your houses to smite you. So you say, well, brother, how are we protected? By obedience. You don't think the Most High will protect you? Through obedience. And if we should lose our life for being obedient, oh well. We'll rise again. Okay? So let's be obedient. Okay? He says it again, verse 24, for those that are slow. And you shall observe this thing for an ordinance to thee and to thy sons forever. So, not only do we observe it, but our sons and daughters observe it. Every house has rules and regulations. My dad used to tell us, if you can't abide by my rules, there's the door. Every house, I don't care where you go, even if you rent an apartment, they have rules. Right? Every house has rules. Okay? Where there is no order, there's chaos. Can I get a witness? So he says, you shall observe this thing for an ordinance to thee and to thy sons forever, and it shall come to pass when you come in the land which Yah will give you according as he hath promised. See that? That you shall keep this service. So for us to make it back to the land, we have to keep this ordinance forever. As a reminder to the Most High and to ourselves of what he promised, right? 26. And it shall come to pass when your children shall say to you, what mean ye by this service? In other words, why we can't have no bread in our house? That don't make sense, right? I'm talking in modern terminology, but that's exactly what the kids will say when you tell them no bread for 7 days. You say, when the children shall say unto you, what does this mean by this service? Why are you doing this? Why we have to be forced to do this? Okay, this is what he says to them now. So this is where we go and we explain to them why we're doing it. 27 says that you shall say, it is the sacrifice of Yah's Passover, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he smote the Egyptians and delivered our houses, and the people bowed the head and worshipped. See that? So we're explaining to them why we are keeping this day. What does it mean, right? We're in, and we have to explain to our children, you are in captivity. I don't care what your school teacher tell you. You in captivity. Anytime you make up the majority in the prison system and the minority in the society, and you got the lowest income, lowest joint household income, okay, so he says, when he smote the Egyptians and delivered our houses, and the people bowed the head and worshiped. And the children of Israel went away and did as Yah had commanded Moshe and Aharon, so did they. See that? So that's how we explain this to our children. We explain this to our children that just like the Most High delivered us out of bondage, we were in slavery, right? We got neighborhoods infested with drugs, right? We got neighborhoods infested with crime, right? We living on top of each other, right? Got a welfare check, public assistance, and still don't have enough. That's why we keep these days, because we're living with anticipation of the Most High taking us out of these conditions, gathering us. I'm going to close with this one here. In Deuteronomy 30, this is what the Most High said. I always go back to this because this is what helps us to see clearly why the Father keeps reminding us to observe these things, right? This is Deuteronomy 30, verse 1. And it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, the blessings and the curse, which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations where Yah have driven thee. What does that mean? I read that fast, and a lot of people read right over it, but I'm going to read it real slow. It shall come to pass, okay, when the time comes, when all these things are come upon us, okay? Deuteronomy 28 talk about all the curses that's going to come upon the children of Israel. When all those things come upon the children of Israel, right? This didn't come upon no other people. And don't you fool yourself by letting somebody tell you, oh, that happened already. This happened to us. The Messiah said in Matthew's, okay, for those that would say, well, that happened during when the children of Israel went into Syrian captivity. Okay, let me ask you a simple question. When the Messiah came on the scene in the flesh, was that before the Syrian captivity or after the Syrian captivity? Okay? And don't say it doesn't matter, because you're showing your stupidity. It does matter because it's in the book. Yahshua came after the Syrian captivity. He said in Luke 21:24, they shall fall by the sword and shall be led captive into all nations. That happened after 70 AD. So these Israelites that was prophesied in Deuteronomy 28 and we led captive to all nations didn't happen until after 70 AD. So who are those people? And where are they at today? He said will be scattered to the four corners. And then watch what he says here. He says, it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, the blessings and the curse, which we read in Deuteronomy 28, which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind. Okay, go back into your mind and say, how did we get over here? You know, why do we have a history the way we have it? Why were we sold, our forefathers sold into slavery, and to this very day, we got to go on Ancestry.com to find our lineage. Because we had our heritage stripped from us, right? We don't know who our great-great-great-grandfather was, right? He said, call them in mind among all the nations where Yah have driven thee. We've been driven, right? From the land of nativity to the land of captivity. And shall return unto Yah. See that? So in these lands where he's driven us, he said, we shall return unto Yah and shall obey his voice. So the question you got to ask yourself, are you tired? If you're not tired, then you're not obligated to do this. This is all hogwash. It means nothing to you. It's going back to the first day church. You're going to serve the Lord Jesus Christ. Shout, kick, spit, speak in tongues, fall on the floor, and just get up and go back to church the next week. All this doesn't matter to you. Nobody holding an obligation over your head for you to do this. If you believe this is all hogwash, then don't do it. But if you do believe it, then do it. So he says, thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations where Yah have driven thee, and shall return unto Yah, and shall obey, right, his voice, according to all that I command thee this day, you and your children, with all your heart and with all your soul. That then Yah will turn your captivity. See that? You don't have to have a doctor's degree to be able to read what the Most High said. That when you do that, that then Yah will turn your captivity and have compassion, right, upon you, and will do what? Return and gather you from all the nations where Yah have scattered you. It's so simple. Brother, you read that wrong. You misinterpreted that. Listen, it's not even about interpreting. It's about just simply reading what it says. Right? Now, 4 says, and if any of thine be driven into the outermost parts of heaven, from thence will Yah gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee. And Yah will bring you into the land which your fathers possessed, which where you were taken from, and you shall possess it, and he will do you good, and multiply you above your fathers. And he will circumcise, verse 6, your heart and the heart of your seed, to love Yah with all your heart, with all your soul, that you may live. So the Most High is not concerned about us dying. You don't think he's tired of seeing us being oppressed in captivity? So if you obey me, if you return to his covenant, I'll take you out of this captivity, and I'll bring you back to the land where your fathers had, and I'll make you greater than your fathers. Okay? You want one Mercedes, you might get 5, right? You want a Lamborghini, you might get a Lamborghini, a Rolls Royce, and a Porsche. You want a Harley Davidson, you might get a Harley Davidson, a yacht, and a plane. But you certainly ain't gonna get it in these lands of captivity. It ain't happening. So that's all I got. Prayerfully, you'll let that marinate in your mind, and you will, as the saying goes, govern yourself accordingly if you want to see change. And I want to see change, so I'm going to do all that I can do to see to it that the change comes in my life and in my family's life and in my friends' life. Anybody that comes in contact with me. I'm constantly preaching to people all the time. On the job, as I cross their path, any opportunity I get, because I want them to understand and to know why we're in this captivity and how we're going to get out of this captivity and what we have to look forward to in days and months, weeks and years to come. So with that, I'm going to say, blessed Shabbat. Pray you have a great Shabbat. And until the next time, I say Chag Sameach, which is happy feast, for those that may see this